Good morning. Today we are off to India. One of the things that I like to do here at the Winter NDE project is to look at near-death experiences from around the world. One of the things that the conclusions that I've reached, one of the fundamental conclusions that I've reached is that a near-death experience is the same for everybody if you're human. It doesn't matter where you are, geography, culture, language, overlying religion, all of those things don't really have much of an effect when it comes to the actual time of death. That it seems to me that the same thing happens to everybody around the world, no matter where you are. That's just what the data seems to indicate. So what I've been doing is going to different countries, and so far I've looked into Germany and France and Japan and Mexico. Today, India. There's an interesting thing when you look at, first off, you understand India. There's 4.1 billion people in India. It's a huge country by population. The largest country in the world, by the way. And I just looked at this a minute ago, it's something like 240 million people in India speak English as a second language. There's a very small population of native speakers. Most of them speak English. Most of those people, that 240 million or so, speak English as a bridge language. But there's distinct cultural differences in India. There's an interesting phenomena that seems to occur because there have been near-death experience researchers who have focused completely on looking at near-death experiences in India. And they call it it's kind of like a book ledger phenomena where people cross over and then it's like, oh, well, you're not supposed to be here. We asked for it here in the book. We've got this book here. The wrong person came and you're not supposed to be here, so we're going to send you back. It's like that seems to be kind of a way that it's framed in when the person who died and had the experience has come back and they're trying to explain what happened. There's this one particular case that I'm going to show you this. There's the website with this particular article for today. Srinivasa Reddy is an account from 1985. This account, putting it into context, it was written up for the first time in like 1985 or so. At that time, it had occurred 40 years earlier, so that puts it at about 1950. So we're talking quite a long time ago. When I first started researching and looking into near-death experience in India, I was immediately hit with like, oh no, they're different when they're in India. Near-death experiences in India are completely different. And my initial instinct was, okay, well, show me how, let's go look at that data. And then this was the first one that was the most prominent. I was like, let me find the most prominent, the most famous near-death experience is responsible for these near-death experiences being categorized as being fundamentally different. So I pulled it up and looked at it and read the available research on it and quickly came to the conclusion that these are no different than any other. When you look at what actually happened in there, he was sick and he had a fever and he died. His family members, then in the Indian tradition, what they do is they take you outside, they lay you on a mat, and then they notify family members and they begin their process of dealing with someone that passes away. Then later on that night, the guy miraculously comes back to life, and he had a story about a near-death experience. And he described and again, when someone comes back from a near-death experience, they are going to explain to you what happened to them, and they're going to put it in their own frame of reference now that they're back from where they were. The concept of words can't describe, and it's hard for me to tell you, and I don't have a way to explain this, is very, very common to the point of being, well, it's just normal. It's just very, very hard for people to describe something that is not part of the human physical existence on this planet. That's an element of every near-death experience. In this case, there were a crossing over. So go from the normal human physical realm into another realm. There were basically spirit guides that came and helped him on his journey and took him to where he went. He encountered the authority figure, which is described as the bright light, what we call God. So he encountered that. So there you go. There's another element. He encountered his deceased father. His father had died 6 years earlier, and as part of this experience, he encountered his father. So again, this is run-of-the-mill, routine, normal, everyday, happens all the time. When I say every day, I really mean that. Happens all the time, an encounter with a deceased loved one, okay? The deceased loved one basically says, well, you're not supposed to be here and you have to return. Now, that is a very common way where it's described, but when you dig into that in an interview, what it comes down to, and it happens all the time as well, that when the person is making their initial description of how that went down, it's described as you have to return. But then when you okay, so tell me more about that. And what it almost always comes down to is the person is given a choice. So they execute their free will and they decide to come back. If they don't decide to come back, you never interview them. That's just part of the game. Oh, and then there was the most important and interesting element of this entire near-death experience, which has been almost completely ignored and not emphasized, that I can tell from other people that have looked at this particular account. And it's this. During his near-death experience, he had died from a fever. And he mentioned to the spirit guides that were with him, hey, I was sick and I died from this fever. Can you give me something to cure it? Now, that's a very normal and very human response, especially if you're a poor person in rural India who doesn't have any access to healthcare or anything, and that fever back on Earth killed you already once. So you're looking for, hey, man, can I get some help here? So they take him to an area or a place, and there's a woman who gives him a broth or a tea kind of thing, and he drinks it. When he comes back, his illness is cured, and not only that, the dude has not got, I think he's probably passed away by now, because he was 75 years old in 1985, so chances are he's no longer with us. However, for the rest of his life, or at the time of the interview, so we're talking from 1950 to 1985 when he was interviewed, he's like, and I haven't gotten sick since. So, in other words, they cured me, and I was cured. Now, that falls into a category of what I call miraculous cures during a near-death experience. And I'm going to do another piece on that as a standalone subset of investigation. But that's a relatively common occurrence as well. A relatively common occurrence of several NDEs. It's a subset. It's not, that doesn't happen to everybody who has a near-death experience. But the idea of the miraculous cure is a common element of near-death experiences. And in this case, they buried the lead. They're focusing on the cultural differences. That's just, the clothes and the cultural dressing and the furniture and the seasoning and all of that. When I got done with this, the subtitle of this article is that chicken is still chicken. When you start with chicken and then you can season it and flavor it and cook it and add this and add that. But when you strip away all of that stuff, underneath it all, you still got chicken. And that clearly, to me, is what happens with this particular case in India. And I think I'm going to find that more frequently as I look more deeper into this, that the same things occur to everybody, no matter where you are, and the way that the people talk about them when they come back. Now, the other interesting or very interesting part, specifically with regards to India, is the cultural setting. So that it's a cultural phenomenon in India to not have individual agency. What I mean by that is that an individual will subjugate their personal needs to the caste system, or they will take care of family first, or in other words, everybody comes before them. So they basically are accustomed to leading their lives according to what other people are telling them to do. And there's also the idea of the ledger book, the clerk, an administrative clerk who's looking down at a list and says, no, you're not the guy that's supposed to be here. You go back. I asked for the other guy. Well, that's just what it boils down to. It would be a way for someone to explain when they come back and they're talking to their people in their village and their family and their friends and relatives and neighbors, of explaining it away. That this is what happened, and I just did what they told me to do. I mean, that's a very, very cultural norm, all right? It's not really normal for near-death experiences, but it is also very common for when people come back, they try to explain things in words and expressions and meanings and in context of what the people that they're trying to explain it to would be able to understand. So, and there's all kinds of differences on the way things are around the world and within different cultures. But and again, here's the bottom line, here's the point, this is what matters. When you strip away that context, the underlying structure is sound. So again, chicken is chicken. That's the article for today. Don't forget to do the social media stuff, like, follow, share, comment, engage. Thank you very much. If you like this kind of content, then of course, please visit the website, winnernde.com. There will be a link in the description to go directly to this India article. Yeah, I hope you're liking this stuff, and have an amazing day. Thank you very much. Bye now.